Hi, everyone. So welcome. Today's talk is Spiritual Chat on Soulmates and Twin Flames. And the date today is Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. So there's a big difference between soulmates and twin flames. A lot of people get the two confused. You only have one twin flame, but you will have many soulmates in your life. Not all soulmates would be someone that you would be in a relationship with. So some could be your best buds or lifelong friends or confidants or business partners. So there's different types of roles that soulmates play, although most of the time people will speak about a soulmate in relation to what they think is a twin flame. So a soulmate is someone you have a strong soul connection with. You feel connected in an extraordinary or significant way that is beyond the physical plane. You feel like you've known each other before, and the bond transcends ordinary life. So it's not, that connection is not like other connections that you may have. You feel totally relaxed with this person. Maybe the way that you met was fortuitous and synchronistic. Like maybe you met each other through a mutual friend that neither one of you are really connected to. But when the two of you meet at that friend's house or whatever, the connection is instantaneous between the two of you. So just to give some clarity with the different type of soulmates that you can get. So you can get soul partners or soul friends. So this relationship is specifically to help support you emotionally or professionally, or in a way that would help you to accomplish or experience what your soul wanted in this lifetime. So these could be business partners, best friends, or partners to raise children, lifelong friends, or work colleagues. So this could be even with where you have been with someone, but the children wanted to come through you. So the two of you had to be together, and then you still connected kind of via the children, but that would still be a soulmate connection because you've come for a specific reason or season. So it doesn't matter how long or short the person is in your life, the significance is still there. Then there's the past life soulmate connection. So you recognize each other, feeling the need to finish what you may have started in a previous life or to achieve something that needs to be done in this lifetime. So this is a particularly strong soul connection because of the past lives that you have shared with each other. Then there's the karmic connection, and this is to work out any wrongs you may have done to each other before. So to bring about energetic balance between the two of you, and so you would be drawn to each other. Be a very clear connection between the two of you, a strong soul connection. Although this one may be a difficult connection, it may not be an easy connection. Then you get the romantic soulmates, which again is not a twin flame. It's a different kind of connection, but where you fall in love with each other, have a significant romantic relationship. These relationships give us the opportunity to learn life lessons, to grow, heal issues because of the relationship. Even though these can be happy relationships, they can trigger deep wounds or insecurities and challenge both of you in uncomfortable ways. Like the boy who I fell in love with, that broke my heart at 16. That strong connection, which I still feel to this day, even though he's passed, that strong soul connection that we had, part of it was to play the role of being the catalyst in that breakup of the relationship when we were 16, which then triggered my spiritual journey because my grandmother was reading all the metaphysical books and I wasn't really interested, although I grew up with all the metaphysical principles because that's how she guided me in my life. And but when my heart was absolutely shattered, that's when I said to her, I think I need to read those books that you're reading. So part of that relationship was definitely the catalyst for me to start me on my spiritual journey, fervently on my spiritual journey, because there had to be answers, and then it's important to know that that soulmate connection that you have with someone has nothing to do with the length of time you are together. It's the connection and the impact that that connection has in your life that is significant. And soulmates, it's someone you have a deep connection to and have a specific soul contract with. So there may be something specifically that the two of you wanted to achieve in this lifetime. And so you made a soul contract beforehand to say, can we do this together for what it is we want to achieve? And you'd be able to feel that the instant you meet each other. Mother Mary and Joseph, the parents of Jesus, they were soulmates, and their mission was to bring up Jesus in the Christ-like way for what his work needed to be later on. Joseph wasn't Mary's twin flame. Archangel Raphael is actually Mother Mary's twin flame. But both Mother Mary and Joseph's twin flames would have been supporting them from non-physical in order for them to achieve their work or what it is that they need to achieve in this lifetime. So although you may not be in a relationship with your twin flame or may not feel the connection with your twin flame, you can never be separate from your twin flame. Most of the time they're in the non-physical while you're in the physical, but I'll get more deeper into that when I do the twin flame part. So you would feel a deep soul connection with your soulmate. You would both have decided before you came here what you wanted to achieve in this lifetime, what lessons you wanted to learn with each other on your path of mastery on the physical plane, as we are all masters on the soul plane, but we've come here to gain mastery on the physical plane. In other words, how much of our soul's wisdom can we bring through to the physical plane in our life as we act out whatever role we have, or whatever it is our mission is in this lifetime. So you would work out what role each of you has to play in order to achieve what the two of you want to achieve. And as I said before, not all soulmates necessarily are in a physical relationship. So soulmates are there to help you learn your greatest lessons. So sometimes these can be a difficult relationship because they would trigger you. Now, some people get a bit panicked about what if they've only got one soulmate? And what if they're ready when their soulmate's not ready? Or their soulmate is ready when they are not ready. So the teachings of Abraham, Esther Hicks channels a group of beings known as Abraham, the soul group. And I remember on one of the talks I was listening to, somebody said, but how do I know if my soulmate is ready when I'm ready? And so Abraham said that we have more than one contract with souls for our soulmate connections, for our relationships, our intimate relationships. And when either one of us is ready, whenever any one of us is ready, the one closest to that person that has the soul contract with them will connect. So let's say we set up with 5 different people. So maybe if you're ready at a particular age in a particular place, then it would be that particular person you would have connected with. But if it's later on and you're in a different place to where that person is, there may be somebody there, or there would be somebody there that you have a soul contract with to play the same role. So it's not a needle in a haystack. When you are ready, there will be someone close to you that would be in your vicinity for you to connect with in order to achieve what you need to achieve through a soulmate connection. Intimate relationship, that is. And there's a lot of karma that's being sorted out in this lifetime and at this time of the planet, as we all are working towards ascension and with the planet working towards ascending. So intimate relationships are very often the ones that force us to deal with any karma that needs to be balanced. So if a friend upset you, you can ignore them or break the friendship up completely. But in an intimate relationship, you are forced to deal with whatever the issue is. And so, and why we don't walk away necessarily when we should is because our soul knows what we intended beforehand to learn from that relationship. And so it will play out for as long as it needs to. So sometimes once you've achieved what you want from a relationship, both parties can then move on and move in different directions, and then have other soulmate relationships with other soulmate relationships with other partners in order for them to achieve something further in their role. I must say, this was quite a while ago. I can't remember. I mean, this is a long time ago, maybe 2000, where I heard where they were talking about how in the minute the atomic bomb went off, our everything was speeded up on the planet. So where before when you were born in a small town, let's say, and then you grew up, you went to the primary school, you went to the high school, you had all the same friends, you met your girlfriend, you got married, you lived within 5 kilometers from your parents' homes, you stayed in that house for the whole of your life. Your children grew up in that house. When they got married, they would live within 5 kilometers of you. You had one job. You had one relationship. You had one career. But after the atomic bomb happened, it ended up where people, the life experiences accelerated. So the way the frequency was on the planet then was that one could experience multiple things all at the same time. So instead of coming back and coming back and coming back, it would be where you would you would grow up, go to school, maybe change different schools because your parents were moving. You would meet somebody, fall in love with that person, maybe marry them, then get divorced, meet someone else, be in that relationship, have one job, then have another job. So it ended up with multiple jobs. So it's multiple relationships, multiple jobs, and then even completely different careers, where one would start out deciding to be one thing and then deciding to change what you wanted to be and then do another whole career, and then in completely different jobs. So maybe the one was in, I don't know, accounting, the other one was in IT, and then where one would maybe move a town, you're not just moving a town or a province or a state. Now you're moving countries. People are immigrating more than ever before. Because if you just have to look back before, everything just was like everybody stayed where they were. There wasn't much international travel and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now we are citizens of the planet. We're not just citizens of our country. We travel, we see different people, we meet friends, those friends fade away. So our experiences are accelerated in every possible way. And then Carolyn Mace, in her book Sacred Contracts, she says, watch out for when there's animation between you and another. Normally, this means there's something significant that person is meant to bring in your life. So either there's a karmic thing that you're meant to sort out, or there is something that you have to experience with that person. And it can be a good animation or a bad animation. You just need to pay attention because there's normally some soul contract that is connected with that person. Now, sometimes people mistaken the animation for sexual attraction when it's not. And it's quite interesting because for me, if I had that animation with a female and I'm heterosexual, if I had that animation with a female, I would always say, oh, there's some soul connection here for sure. And yet, if it was with a male, I would always think, oh, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not into an affair. I'm married. I don't know why there's this connection between us. I don't know why I never thought of the fact that could be just as much a soul connection as what it was when I connected with the female. I never, ever confused it with the female, but with the male, I always withdrew because I didn't know why that connection was happening until I'd read the book. And I thought, and when I look back with those guys that I'd pulled back from, I could see what the reason was for that animation. Because the one guy was that he gave the book The Hands of Light to read. And thank goodness, each time when I thought, I don't know what's going on here, and I pulled back, whatever needed to happen had already happened. So I'd already been given the book, or I'd already been introduced to someone else. That was the real connection of why that happened. So I had always, whatever the reason for the animation had already been achieved. So I didn't have to revisit any of those things but then I understood. And so after reading that book, I then realized, whenever there's animation, so I never get it confused. So sometimes the other person gets it confused, and I'll say, no. This is just a soul connection that we're recognizing because there's something significant about our connection with each other. So I'm able to clarify for both parties what's actually going on, so there isn't any confusion. And also, because we live in a pretty disconnected world, when we feel a connection with someone, we put too much into it sometimes, and maybe we were just meant to be good friends traveling this journey of life together. It doesn't always mean you need to be in a relationship. It doesn't always mean that this is the one. There could be times where it is, but it can be confused. So you need to be clear about what the signals are that you're picking up, and not mistaken it. And I sometimes think that's why you may sometimes get the unrequited love situation, where the one feels wanting to be in the relationship with the person, but the other one's not getting the same signal. So that means that you're not meant to be. Otherwise, both parties would have the feeling that you should be in a relationship. It should be on both sides. So if you look back on your life and you think about the people who played a significant role, you'll come up with a list of soulmates, people who touched your life in significant ways, and you touched their lives in precious ways. So I can think of two teachers at school that were really, really, they made life in school bearable, in high school. And then a boss that I worked with. He was a big boss. And it was like he took me under his wing. And it's quite sad when people see a connection like that and assume he never had a daughter. So he kind of took me like a daughter. He had two sons. And he would phone my grandmother to ask what's wrong with me, what's going on with me, am I okay? Because I'd been very grumpy that day or whatever. And he would say to me, why are you being so cheeky today? And I said, because you phone my mom, because I've called her my mom. You phone my mom to ask what's going on with me. Just butt out. It's got nothing to do with you. I mean, I was very cheeky, but maybe that's why I was very straightforward, should I say. But he always looked out for me. And people tried to insinuate that our connection, because he never favored me for anything. If I did something wrong, I got into trouble properly, probably more than other people. So if I made a mistake with work or whatever. So people tried to insinuate like there was an affair going on. I mean, I was a baby compared to him. You know, he was in his 40s when I was 17, because I finished matric when I was 17, when I started working. And so it always irritated me that people would make an ugly thing out of something that was really pure. And so and still today, when it's his birthday, I will think of him. He's passed now, but I will still think of him. The soul connection is still there, even though he's on the other side. And there never had been any inappropriate stuff. Never, ever, ever, ever. He just behaved like a father. He knew that I didn't have a father. And so he behaved as a father figure. So those kind of connections are really, really, really deep. And I suppose people can recognize and don't understand it because they always assume if they see two people connected that, and a soul connection is a really strong connection, they would assume that connection is a sexual connection and completely misread it. And then there was a girl at school. Now, this was very interesting because she was in my class, but we were never friends. We were friendly. We were never not friendly, but we weren't buddies in school. But I remember her, I think it was through somebody connected with her brother-in-law or something, that I ended up getting work at Telkom. I know that somehow she was connected, that I got the job in Telkom. And then and also she was the epitome to me. She was the epitome of what a Christian should be. She never judged anybody. She was always very caring and gentle with people. She never spoke badly about people. She was never bitchy. She never, ever did anything that she never judged anybody. She accepted everybody for who they were. She really was, to me, the perfect example of what a Christian could be. And we had plenty of born-again Christians that were horrendous in the way they were so bitchy, judgmental. You know, they were better than everybody else. And she always stuck out for me. I mean, even to this day, she has always stuck out to me as if all Christians were like her, people would be drawn to become Christians. So that girl played a really big role. Then I've got friends that I grew up with, and it's quite interesting because some of the guys that I had grown up with, that we were a very tight group when we were teenagers. And then, of course, as we got older, you know, kind of life draws you apart. And then I lost connection with some of them. And also back in those days, you didn't have cell phones, so it was just landlines. And so when anybody moved, you kind of lost contact with each other. And then the one guy managed to connect with me through, he had seen me on Facebook, and we connected through Skype about, it must have been about 10 years ago now. And then just the other day, about 3 weeks ago, one of the other guys went onto Facebook. He hadn't been on Facebook. He'd never, ever interacted on Facebook, even though he had a Facebook page. And he found me through Facebook. And now all of a sudden, that tight group who's left of it, because a couple of them have passed, are all in communication with each other again. And last Saturday, not the Saturday, the Saturday before, we ended up having about a 4.5 hour, if not a 5 hour, three-way conversation on WhatsApp. We were all talking together and on video, so we could see each other, because every time we spoke to each other, everybody sounds exactly the way they did when we were younger. But here we were now connected, seeing each other as we look now, and reminisce over the and saying, do you remember this and do you remember that? And I cannot tell you, the connection is as strong as it was. And of course, I've always been the counselor and the one that gives advice and supporting, because that's just what I've done my whole life. So whatever they're going through in their lives, I'm able to say, well, you know, with this, give them different perspectives and things of what they're going through. And so as much as we were not connected over the past, say, 40 years in some cases, we had to come full circle and then be connected now again, which I find very, very significant. And there is no difference in the bond between us than what it was back then. So it's very, very interesting. So, and sometimes, again, people, if you're in a relationship, people can misread what that bond is. But it was never, with the three of us, it was never that we were involved with each other. So it was completely platonic, but the bond was really, really, really strong. And these guys really had my back back in the day. You know, if there was anything going on, they would just tell people, hey, you need to back off. Or if a guy was pursuing me and had a hidden agenda, they would say, listen, if that's what you're about, then you got to be out of here. So they always protected me. So it was very interesting in that we've all come full circle till now. And then when I think of my relationships, like the relationship of at the 6th, the breaking the heart at the 16, that one was definitely the catalyst in order to get me on the spiritual path. But there were a few other significant things that also happened where I was able to speak to him about things that I was never able to speak to anybody else with. And I know the same thing happened vice versa. So it wasn't just that wasn't the only thing. There were a few things involved with that. And then if I think of my first husband, and my son had to come through him, so clearly there would have been a soul contract between us that would have been very significant. And then, of course, as much as I believed in life after death and reincarnation and all this amazing stuff, I believed in it. I'd never had personal experience with any of it. And so when he died, that was the soul contract was then much, much bigger because of all that he was able to confirm for me when I was asking for signs, and the way he came through to me to let me know about certain things. And that bond is still to today. There'll be times when there's something going on with my son and his daughters, and I'll say, do you know that this is happening? And I'll get a sign still today. So those kind of soul connections don't go away just because of death. And then with my ex-husband, I know that the soul contract between the soulmate connection between us, which was an intimate relationship initially, but I also know that probably the bigger purpose of that relationship was for him and my son. Because if you see their connection, because my son is from my first marriage, if you see the bond between the two of them, you would never say they're not father and son. And so that is a significant connection. So that soulmate connection between him and I was to do with bringing Clinton up together, and for that connection between the two of them. And our relationship is really good now. We can be in each other's company. It's not a problem at all. And then I wasn't in a relationship after I got divorced for about 9 years. And I was pretty happy with just being all on my own. And then with no handbrake to stop me from doing what I wanted to do, if I wanted to travel or anything like that. I was very happy to be on my own. And then not necessarily having to cook a whole dinner. You can just have a peanut butter sami for supper. That part can be quite bad. But so I was really happy to be on my own. And then went on a trip to via Paris to go to work. And on the way back, I was in Paris for 24 hours. And I thought, oh my gosh, nobody should be on their own in Paris. And I didn't go in anywhere, because I thought, no, I want to come back with a significant other and experience it properly. So I just went on that big red bus ride so that I could see everything. Now I'm sorry I didn't go into Notre Dame, because now it's not the same. But anyway, when I got back from that, my mindset was right. Now I'm ready to meet someone. And I met this guy, and we had a really, really strong connection. But he was a Mormon, and so with them, it's heading towards, if you're in a relationship, basically they want to be married, but then you should convert. And I said, you know what, that's never going to happen. But I really appreciate what we've had, because I realized because that was a soulmate connection. We are still deeply, deeply connected today. But I know that connection was significant to open my heart again to love. We laughed a lot. So it was just finding the joy in life. And then also, we had already split up, but still remained really, really good friends when he went over to Scotland and then invited me to come there. And I was there for 4.5 months before COVID happened. Well, I got back just before COVID hit. And I was able to then travel from Scotland to Ireland to do work there, because I'd never worked there before. Was able to do some travels through England, through Wales, and then to do work in the Netherlands, which normally I would travel from here to the Netherlands, but I was able to do it from there. So I had wonderful experiences. Even went on a road trip with a girlfriend of mine that we'd also grown up together, and she flew over from LA, and then we did a road trip from Christmas market to Christmas market through Europe. It was the most amazing thing. So if him and I hadn't had that connection, those things would never have happened. So sometimes the connections are not meant to necessarily stay as a relationship, but the significance of being the soulmate and doing the journey together. And him and I have done this whole journey together, because we talk all the time regarding the whole patriot, this whole thing. We've been talking with each other all the time with the whole patriot movement and all that's been going on, with all the political stuff and the COVID and all that kind of stuff. So we've been together on that journey the whole time, where he's been surrounded by people who are not open to any of it. we were able to be talking and supporting each other and sharing stuff all along the way. So that was also hugely significant. And then if I think also even of work colleagues, there were some people that we just got on extremely well at work. And the three people were instrumental in enabling me to be able to I had been a what they call a telecom assistant, technical assistant on in my section, and I got to senior, and then couldn't go any further because that's the highest that you could go as just a telecom assistant, because it wasn't any qualification. You had just come off the street, and then I was teaching all the new recruits. I mean, my role was very responsible. And the one Indian guy, he said to me, "So you're a senior telecom electrician, aren't you, Allison?" And I said, "No, I'm a senior telecom assistant." He said, "What? And you do all of that stuff?" So I said, "Yeah, well, I wasn't prepared. I was always petrified to leave my gran in case my gran died while I was away. I don't know. I always had that thing of, no, I'm not going to go away. And you had to go away for 6 months to do training. And so I said, oh, no, I was never going to travel. Now I'd already been there, I think, 7 years. And he said, how long have you been here? So I said, 7 years. He said, do you know, because he was a lecturer at the technical college, do you know that you can actually just go and write the final exams because you've already got all the experience? So he said, I'll help you in any way that I can, but don't say that I told you can do that, but start making inquiries. And so it was quite interesting how the people who were significantly positioned in order for me to be able to do that, because there was one chief technician who was in the planning section that said, oh, no, you can come down here. I'll be happy to have you here so you can gain the experience and actually go out with someone to know what it's like to lie on your belly and look down a manhole to see where the cables are going, all that kind of stuff. So there were everything just fell into place for me to be able to do that. So we sometimes think that, or we don't put much emphasis on those kind of connections at the time. But then when you look back and you realize, hell, if it wasn't for that person, and they were only in your life that short period of time to facilitate whatever needed to happen there. So very often we don't realize the significance of those relationships. So I would like you to, when you get a chance, because it'll be a really good exercise for you to do, to actually make a list of people that played a big role in your life. The relationships were significant. And I don't care if it was a 10-minute conversation in a bus, but what they told you or what they said had you making a choice in a different way in your life or whatever, or gave you clarity in a particular way. And then just write down who the people are and then work out what it was. What was the significance of that connection? Because there will be other people that you don't really remember. They kind of drifted in, drifted out. There was no real significance in that relationship. And then try to work out what it is, because you may be blown away by the people that you set up around yourself in order for you to achieve the things that you've achieved in your life, right up to this point even. And remember, with soulmate connections, it can be what that person can facilitate for you, like a trip or a meeting someone else that's actually really significant. So try to see how that fitted in. And even the ones where you thought, oh my gosh, this is the love of my life, and then it didn't turn out to be that way, that strong connection, there was still a reason for that. So you want to see, what role did that play? What was it that actually happened while we were together or while we were trying to be together? What is the connection of that? Were they the role that they played? Were they the networker or the connection for you to meet the love of your life? Try to see, because then you don't get hung up on the person that didn't love you, because maybe that wasn't meant to be the relationship because you met the person that did love you. So don't get hung up on some of the things that appeared to not work out. Okay, so now we're getting to the twin flame. And it was really quite amazing because when I was when I woke up yesterday morning, I just thought, I want to write some notes. I've got lots of time for downloads to happen regarding all the stuff. And so I thought, let me, and I started writing the twin flame information before the other. So I thought, no, let me get in, because whenever I'm doing something like this, I like to get into the channeling connected space, because I'm more, everything is more in alignment, coherent, so that things are flowing in a good way. And so I just thought, let me connect with I've always connected with the appropriate being, because I don't know which being is the best light being to connect with to get the information. And it was my twin flame. So it was pretty friggin' awesome, I have to say. I don't often think about connecting, and I should actually do it more often. So a twin flame or twin soul means the same thing, okay? Soulmate is not the same thing as a twin flame. So our twin flame or twin soul was created at the exact same time that we were, out of a single energy body, or what they call a fire, a white fire, okay? And then it was separated into two separate spheres of being, but each with the same spiritual origin, the same unique pattern of identity. Okay, so that's a completely different thing to what a soulmate is. So a twin flame is something that you would not be able to mistaken, because it would be literally like the other part of you. Now, I don't see it as you're not complete in yourself. You are just two projections of the same thing. So I don't see it as you not being whole, because I really do know there's absolutely no way you can be separate. You can only be part of that whole, but not the twin flame is not necessarily in incarnation at the same time that you are, but connected you will most certainly be. And so I was having a look at the book Soulmates and Twin Flames by Elizabeth Clare Prophet. And there was on the one chapter that's the quest for wholeness, I found some really nice information. So I'm just going to read this to you. She says, now's the time at the end of this cycle of history and moving into the Aquarian age that people of light who are on a spiritual path need to learn to contact their twin flames. This search is prompted by our higher selves, but inadequately understood at the physical level. So often when people learn that they share a unique mission with their twin flame, they begin to search physically for that one special soul instead of seeking for the wholeness within. This is always a detour on the path to soul liberation. It is our relationship to God and our higher self that holds the key to finding and becoming one with the twin flame. So I love that description, because it's become like the catch word now, twin flame, soulmate, like everybody's thinking, oh no, I know that so-and-so is definitely my twin flame, or I've met my twin flame, because there's been some bit of a connection. Meantime, that person's married, you married, there's a whole lot of stuff in between. There's no ways it would be set up in that way. So when it's all complicated and it's going to cause more karma, more crap, that is not going to be a twin flame relationship. So I had some questions, because as I said, I was connected with my twin flame. So I got some insights because I wanted to know more. So much can be achieved in this life if you are energetically connected with or become one with your twin flame. And that means while they're not with you, you're not in a relationship with that person, this is something of being energetically connected. So you are tuned in, connecting with that other part of you, okay? So you were both created out of the same whole and then separated into two parts. So you were the one that then split into two, which created an eternal search for completion or to be made whole again. In other words, with the two parts coming together. So that's our motivation, apparently, in life, that no matter what experiences we have, our search in the end is always ultimately because we are searching for our significant other, which is the twin flame. And I remember reading in the Sept material by Jane Roberts. I tried to find it so that I could get it more specific, but I wasn't going to reread the whole book, and I couldn't find where exactly that was said. But basically, Sept was explained. Now, Sept is a group of souls that have already completed their life experience and are now assisting Earth. So that's exactly what the Abraham group is known as, what Cryon is, what Michael is, the Michael group, not Archangel Michael, not to be confused with Archangel Michael. There's a group known as Michael, and all these. So in other words, what that means is every one of the souls in that soul group have all finished their journey in life. They've achieved what they wanted to achieve here, and where they could have moved away, they decided, no, they want to help support us here on Earth, and they've had life experience here, so they want to help us and help guide us with information. And so they come through, they normally come through someone who is channeling the information. They will not only come through those particular channels. You would be able to, if you were channeling, you would be able to channel them, but you wouldn't be doing it on a scale that those channels are doing, because that's what their soul contract is for them to be the mouthpiece for those groups of souls. Like Esther was chosen to bring through the Abraham teachings. Although other people can connect with Abraham and channel information themselves, they would never be doing it like Esther would be doing it, because that's not how it works, okay? So the Sept material came through Jane Roberts, and so they must have asked, how life began, like what was it in the beginning, and the way Sept described it is that when we were first created, we were created as two. So it would be like two men, two women, or man and woman. That's how our souls were created. And so, but we were so satisfied with our significant other. We didn't need to experience life. We were quite happy to just be with each other. And so God decided, well, if I want to experience every kind of experience that I could possibly have in life, then I would have to separate them. So I would they would be split up. And in their search for each other, I would have every kind of experience that could possibly be had. And so that's what happened. And so if your partner, if your twin flame was a same sex as you, then each time you would incarnate, you would incarnate looking for a relationship with the same sex. So, and we've had incarnations as males and females, but you may not have a heterosexual relationship if your twin flame and you were same sex. So I don't know how much. You've got to think about the fact that a lot of this stuff was also infiltrated. So I don't know how true that some of that stuff could be. I sensed when I was kind of asking my twin flame, explain that a little bit more. I kind of felt like when they were saying you play a particular role as male or female, it can be where you are playing a significant role of being more sensitive, being more of the masculine role and the feminine role. That can be a strong personality or a soft giving personality. So whether that's got to do with male, female, or what the sexual connotation is of relationships, I'm really not I'm not 100% clear on that. But basically that's what the Sept material had said, where you would be always searching for your significant other in the same role of how you were in the beginning. So if you were two females, you would always be searching for female. And if you were two males, you'd always be searching for a male. And if you were male and female, you would always be searching for the opposite sex, not the same sex relationship, because you would know that your twin flame would be that. So most of the time, when the one twin flame is in incarnation, the other is not. Very rarely are both incarnated at the same time, unless they have a major mission on earth. Like Jesus and Mary Magdalene are twin flames. Okay, so what they needed to achieve on earth, in order to make the significant imprint that they had to on mankind, they needed to be both in physical form at the same time. And so that's why they had to try and badmouth, why the baddies had to badmouth her and make her out to be a whore and a prostitute and what have you, so that people wouldn't recognize her as having been the big role player that she was. And but there's lots of evidence of it in the Bible, like things where they say there were 13 disciples. They talk about the 13th disciple used to make, I think Peter used to get mad saying, why do you listen to, I don't know, that they actually, I think they don't make out, they don't say her, because they made it sound like all the disciples were only men. And so, but there's definite connotation where you can see, and then of course you had the Last Supper, and the Last Supper was male and the female. And so there's lots of information that indicates that Jesus and Mary were actually equal as far as the spirituality and stuff was concerned. And if they were on that mission, they would each have had the equal potency of what their mission was. No one's job was less than the others. With twin flames, there is a recognition of the mission that's needed to be achieved on earth, a deep connection and understanding of that mission that can only be achieved together. There is nothing they need to work out between them. There is a feeling of deep love and peace that surpasseth all understanding. By the time they get together, all they needed to work through individually for their spiritual growth has already been completed and achieved. So if they do connect physically on this earth, it would already be where any stuff that they had to work out, they would have already done. But there would still be an understanding when one was in non-physical and the other was in physical of what the mission needed to be. And so I have a feeling that as we move forward now with all that's happening, there are going to be more and more twin flames that are actually going to be in physical incarnation at the same time. So the partners are going to pitch. Okay, the twin flames are going to pitch. And then I've got, it's important to note that in order to achieve their mission, it does not necessarily mean that they both need to be in physical form. It can be achieved with the one being on the physical plane while the other one is on the non-physical, but where they have energetically become one. So just some of the things that your twin flame can do. So you can energetically come through, they can energetically come through someone that you're with, okay? They can come to you when you're asleep. When you're awake the next morning, you'll feel like you've been loved the whole night. And that's got nothing to do with sexual love, okay? It's a much deeper feeling of love. They can come to you in your dreams. They can come to you in meditation. They can come to you in a daydream. They can connect with you energetically at any time. And they can be a walk-in if necessary. So I don't know that I've spoken on walk-ins before. Some of you have heard me talk on walk-ins, but I don't think I've spoken, I might not have spoken on walk-ins on this channel in any of the previous recordings. But a walk-in is where two people, and it can even be more, two souls have an agreement to use one physical body. So if you understand that a physical body is just the motor vehicle, the vehicle for transportation in this physical world for your soul. So more than one person, more than one soul can use a physical body. But it would be a soul contract that would be, they would already have decided beforehand that I only need to use this vehicle up to this point in my life, and then I'll be done with what I want to achieve, and I will move on. And then the other soul will say, okay, well, I don't want to have to go through those first 21 years, 28 years, whatever, go through all the school stuff all over again. But whatever training that original soul had in that body, because remember, all that information will be wired into that DNA. It would need to be in alignment with the work the soul coming in would need to do. And so there can be a time where the other soul leaves and your twin flame comes into that body and now is able to then connect with you. So I think that could be what's happening moving forward. I remember Dranvido Melchizedek. I went and did a course with him. He's from the Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life. He came to South Africa, and I went and did a 5-day retreat with him in the Magaliesberg, in the mountains in just outside Johannesburg. And I had a girl that we'd become very close friends, but she had done my course, the channeling course, and on that course had found out, when I'd met her then, we discovered that she was a walk-in. And so Dranvilo tells his whole story that he was a walk-in and he remembers when he came in. And so Dranvilo, in those 5 days, for every tea break and lunch break, there were about 100 people on the course. He made sure he sat at a table. He made sure he connected with everyone over that 5-day period. So when he came and sat at our table, I said to him that Sky knows that she's a walk-in, and explained what her experience had been. And he said, oh, yes, that's happening all the time now. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, everything's accelerated. Now's the time to be on the planet. So there are many walk-ins happening all the time, where one soul has decided, okay, it's achieved what it wanted to achieve, had enough, moving on, and another soul moves in. And how you recognize that is the way the people behave differently. And there's always a near-death experience associated with it, or a close shave. So in some cases, it's where a person had an operation, and then they come out of the operation a different person, and people just think, oh, it's because of the operation that they change. Meantime, they don't realize there's actually a new, a different soul in there, okay? So sometimes that the relationship can continue that the person's in, or with the children, because everybody would have been in agreement beforehand. So if that person's coming into a family, then everybody associated with that individual in that family would all have agreed to it. And so sometimes then there can be a divorce, or they move on, or something happens where the relationship could break down, and each one moves into where they need to go, but it would all have been agreed to beforehand. So it's not just a random thing that everybody's out of control and nobody knew anything about it. Everybody on a soul level knew about it beforehand. And it takes 2 to 3 years for the soul that took over the body to even know. They know that they feel like a square peg in a round hole, but it may take them 2 to 3 years before they actually realize that they were a walk-in. And it's not something you run around talking about. I mean, we did it on one of the channels, and I read out all the questions. And of all the people on the channel, I think there might have been 10 people on the channel. I think 9 or 8 of them were walk-ins. And it wasn't just, oh, well, a maybe, could be. No, they got 6 out of 6 for the questions that were related to walk-ins. So, but it's nothing to freak out about. You are who you are right now in this body. So you don't have to freak out about who it was before or whatever, because it would be strong soul connections between you and that other person, because those kind of things don't happen without there being strong soul connections. So you don't have to be freaked out about that. So there's a possibility that that's how the twin flames will come through when the time is right, if not already in nation. Because I think this is the time on the planet where, with the way things are shifting and moving, that this would be the right time for all the twin flames to connect and to be able to take the planet to where it needs to go. So the first time I channeled my twin flame, I found out about twin flames, and I had already learned how to channel. I'd already learned the channeling technique that I know. And so I had some serious questions to ask and wanted to find out the answers from my twin flame. So the one day, water amplifies energy. So I find it extremely powerful to channel when I'm in the shower or when I'm lying in the bath, because that's why people get great inspiration when they're in the bath or when they're in the shower, because I don't know what the water does that just makes the frequency resonate at a higher pace that they're able to communicate to us clearly. So that's why I decided to do it one morning, to channel my twin flame and ask the questions that I wanted to. But just what had led up to this day was a couple of days before, when my husband arrived home from work. He was very attentive and asking how my day had been, listening to what I had to say, but in a very focused way, which was weird. So we were just normal, like normal people would find out, how's your day? Be attentive with each other. We were affectionate with each other. But this was absolutely significantly different. It's like I was aware that something was different. And I didn't understand why. Why was he being so attentive? Why was he like looking at the way he was looking at me was even different. It was just more, everything was more intense. And when we had supper, he was saying about he really enjoyed the supper. It was so delicious. Thank you for making it for him. And it was just an ordinary meal, like bangers and mash, something that we had every week. There was nothing different about the meal that he was making a fuss about it. And then after supper, we went into the lounge to watch a little bit of TV. So the way our lounge was set up, we had a 3-seater that was across the back. And then on the one side, we had the 2-seater, and on the other side, a single-seater. So it created a U, okay, like a U shape, with the TV being at the other end of the room. So what used to happen, he was 6'4", so he would lie on the 3-seater couch. I would drape myself over the 2-seater couch, and my son would drape himself over the 1-seater couch, and then we'd be watching the TV. But I kept on feeling that he was looking at me. And so I would look over my shoulder, and I'd say, and he would be looking at me, and then I'd say, what? And he would say, nothing. So I said, well, why are you looking at me? He said, can't I look at you? It was just so weird. And I was aware of him all the time. And I could feel the love coming off him. I mean, we've been married for a long time. We've been in a relationship for a long time. So it was just weird to be feeling it in this way. We loved each other, but this was different. There was just something emanating from him. So I was very aware of it all the time, and didn't understand what was going on. Then that night when we went to sleep as normal, and we used to sleep, cuddle, like spooning each other. So if he turned over, I'd turn over. If I turned over, he would turn over. It was normal as we would normally be. But when I woke up in the morning, I felt like I'd been held all night. I felt absolutely loved beyond what was going on, what was normal. It was completely different. And so I didn't understand it. So now back to the channeling. And so I was asking the twin flame, so how do I know when you're around? And what, I could feel when I connected with the twin flame, I could feel the familiarity of the energy. I definitely could feel the love. I could feel the connectedness between us. And so I was asking, what is the role of the twin flame? And, how do I feel you? And how do I, how does this work, if you're not in physical form? And so he said to me, when Kevin came home the other night and he was referring to that story about how was your day, and looking at me all the time and thanking me for the food and all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, that was me. And he said, when you felt you were being held the whole night and you felt like you'd been loved the whole night, well, that was me. And so he was saying that in order for them to connect with us physically, they can use the partner that we're with. And we play the same role for them, for our partner's twin flame. So he said, any time that I feel you need to feel me physically, I will come through Kevin. So where it was Kevin holding you, I was coming through Kevin while you were asleep, holding you. And so you could feel me. We were connected energetically. And so, and then their role to play would be to support you with whatever you're going through at that time. So if you're going through trauma or upset or whatever at that time, they will be able to do that so that you can feel the support if you are unable to feel it energetically because you are too focused on the feeling of being disconnected and not feeling loved or whatever. They will come through the partner in order to connect with you. And so when he was saying that, so I said, well, so then what about Kevin? So it's great that he was doing this for me, but what about Kevin? And then he said, but you play the same role for Kevin's twin flame. So when she needs to connect with him, she will come through you. So those times when you find yourself being very loving and attentive to him, more than normal, that would be his twin flame expressing herself through you for him to feel her. And so I think that's really awesome. And that's why I know that we are never not connected with the twin flame. The twin flames are always connected with us because energetically we cannot be separate. The only part that's separate is as it appears when we are having a physical experience in life and they're not here. And if we're not meant to have the physical, if we're still learning some of our physical I think of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning. They said that they were twin flames, and she was very sickly. I think she was the one that wrote poetry. I can't quite remember the story there, but where they had too much that they had to learn, but needed the physical support there. So their twin flame both physically. Were in physical incarnation at the same time. And they've also said that Elizabeth, what's with all these Elizabeths? Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton were twin flames. And look at them. I mean, did they get married and divorced like 7 or 8 times? But they were twin flames. But that was showing how being in incarnation at the same time didn't always necessarily work out okay because they still had their journey to go on and lessons to learn. I do think that now it's different on the planet and that people would be learning the stuff before getting together. I don't know why. I just feel that instinctively. I don't know if that's a knowing. I just feel that because some people will stick to the hell of a relationship that they're in thinking, no, but this is my twin flame. At this stage of the game, hell no. Your twin flame is not going to be the one that put your life through hell. Absolutely, categorically not. I do not believe that for one moment. And I do believe that more than ever, with people having the intention of connecting with their twin flames, that they probably are more open to being connected with them energetically. And so it is happening, even with their twin flame being a non-physical. But I do believe, you see, now this could also be channeled I could be channeling now because I feel like also the twin flame, okay, this is channeled information. And I think this is for real. The 2 twin flames can be in incarnation on the planet at the same time, but not necessarily be in the same place, but would be able to connect with each other energetically because they are not just limited to a physical body. So in other words, I could be here, my twin flame could be in America. So when I'm asleep here, they would be awake, or when they asleep there, I would be awake. And so whoever's asleep would be able to be available to the other one energetically anyway, to be able to come and be with them. So I feel that the energy is so refined on the planet right now that level of stuff is happening. So I do feel very strongly with that. So that's quite possibly channeled information. But don't get confused. A lot of people are getting confused on Telegram and stuff where they're thinking now they connect with someone that's not in their country or whatever, or not in their state, and they start thinking that that's now their twin flame. And yes. Man, chances are very slim that it's going to happen in that way. The connection is not going to be so physical as much as energetic. And then when the time is right for you to physically connect, you will have no frigging doubt about the fact that it is your twin flame, because it will be where you need to be together, and there will not be any need for disentangling from marriages and all that kind of crap. So I actually think that the possibility is that I know a lot of relationships have ended, with the whole COVID thing, when everybody was locked up together. And so where there were cracks in relationships, they became huge miles of separation, of realizing that they're no longer connected. And so a lot of the relationships ended. And I think if anybody's relationship has ended in the last 2.5 years, don't go rushing into another relationship. I think it's in order for you to be available for that twin flame connection, and it can't miss that trust. You don't need to go looking for it. You don't need to move states for it. You don't need to move countries for it. You don't need to flip and do anything. It will happen in the most natural way. I always say to people, you can't miss the bus. You cannot. If you knew how the connection was meant to happen, you would not on a human level be able to orchestrate it. It would be something that would be beyond your capability on a physical plane to make it happen. But it will happen energetically, and you will look back absolutely blown away about how the synchronicities happen in order for you to be brought face to face. And I have a feeling all that stuff will happen in a natural way once everything has moved into the new era, the new space that we are all moving into on the planet, mankind, that all of this is ironing out. I mean, the fact that I can even speak like this on a platform, and people will be able to get access to the information, and people will resonate with the information, that shows how far we've come. Because if I was speaking about this stuff just, 10 years ago, people would think you lost your mind. What do you mean there's a twin flame? And what are you talking about, walk-ins? And people were just not available to even hear that kind of thing. And yet now people are making quantum leaps in the way you thought they would never understand certain things. They have now taken quantum leaps and made quantum shifts in what they perceived was real and not real, and what was true and what was not true. So it's never been more fertile energetically on the planet for twin flames and that to come together, and for like-minded souls and stuff to come together, than the way it is now. So I really do believe it's kind of the gathering of the clans to move forward. And in order for us to be at our most potent, we would be connected with our twin flame. So I have absolutely no doubt about that. And no matter what it is that we are meant to achieve moving forward, it is a spiritual mission that we are all on. And all of that will come to light at the right time when we need to know. So, so that's all that I have to say on it, but I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions about it. So I think we'll open up for any questions now. If you have any questions to do with soulmates or to do with twin flames, I'm happy to answer them.